Welcome to Queer Becoming's Beyond Survival, the podcast where it gets better finally gets receipts. We sit down with brilliant, bold, beautifully queer humans who once found themselves stuck in a situation, a relationship, or a whole life chapter where they felt defeated. And then, through introspection, humility, courage, and action, they flip the script.
This podcast isn't about giving you advice or telling you what to do. It's a place where we ask the question, what does it look like to live beyond survival? We'll spotlight some of our most vulnerable and profound moments, the breakthroughs that took everything we had and reshaped our futures.
These are real queer people sharing real queer victories. So buckle up, hydrate, and prepare to laugh, cry, and blurt out, "You did what?" Because right here, we're not just surviving, we're becoming. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm one of the 3 hosts for this podcast. In this first episode, we're going to be sharing some of our own experiences. Before we dive in, we want to offer a bit of context for something that's part of all of our stories and will come up throughout the podcast. The 3 of us got to know each other through our participation in a personal development course called the Landmark Forum. The forum invites people to take a deep look at how they relate to themselves, others, and life. For each of us, it had a profound impact on how we live as queer people, so it's part of what we'll be sharing here. The intention of this podcast isn't to promote any one program, practice, or set of beliefs. It's simply to share the variety of incredible lives queer people are living.
Alex Brookins is a speaker, writer, and communication coach with nearly 2 decades of experience in personal development and speaking across the United States on mental health, queer identity, and transformation. Professionally, he brings a multidisciplinary background to working with small businesses to improve their operations and take effective action towards what matters.
Hey y'all, Alex here to give a quick content warning. In this interview, I share openly about my depression and anxiety, and especially my freedom from them. I also mention some mental health issues I dealt with when I was younger, specifically suicidal ideation, self-harm, and an eating disorder. I don't get into the details of those, I just name them. If you'd like to skip this portion of my interview, skip from 7 minutes and 5 seconds to 7 minutes and 40 seconds.
All right, so Alex, if
Yes.
someone met you today, they'd see a short king who's confident, free, and I don't know, like, what'd you say, Elliot? Like unmessable with. Would you agree?
Okay. Cool. I am so glad. Speaking of being unmessable with, there are people at my house right now, and we have 3 dogs, and I have a little dog who just screams and hates people. So, I am unmessable with, and I kind of got to deal with him as we're doing this. So just if you hear dogs barking, that's what's going on.
We get it. We get
Totally.
it. Tell Roger so we said hi.
Okay, I sure will.
All right. Okay, so I know you got wherever you got going on with your dogs and whatnot, but like is that do you experience yourself as unmessable with and like has it always been that way for you? Is that just like an
I
Alex thing?
I think I do experience myself like that now. It definitely hasn't always been the case. I used to be defined by being messable with. Everything would mess with me.
Okay.
Mood.
Okay. What was
Real.
what was that like or like what were some of those things? What do you mean by
Um, well, I walked around with, I used to be really anxious. I had a lot of social anxiety. I was super depressed. It's just every time something happened, I was like, this is my fault and I'm bad. And I was just really scared of doing things of people. And so something would happen and I would read it as I shouldn't be doing this or I shouldn't even be this way. And so everything kind of threw me off.
Hmm.
So, like, let me see. What is something concrete? Had, yeah, let me look at when it came to other people, like interacting with other people. Um, when I was a lot younger, I felt like I couldn't talk to people at all. And then as I got older and I just had to talk to people more and more and more, I started to feel like I was in a box. And it was like a glass box where I looked like I was supposed to be normal and functioning like everybody else and able to communicate with everybody else. But
Hmm.
in reality, I had this sense that I just didn't relate. I didn't get it. I wasn't able to communicate. There was an experience that I was having inside the box. Like I felt like there was different weather inside the box, and there was no way of expressing that to people outside the box, and there was no way for them to express their experience to me. And I felt really isolated and I felt really weird and like I was never actually going to be able to connect with other people in a real way as I am.
Damn. I can see why
Not
you
to
were
be super
anxious.
heavy.
I'm
Oh
getting
my
anxious
gosh.
listening, but yeah, I think that I mean that's a great analogy. Um,
Yeah.
have
And that's
you
like that's a sorry, I was just gonna say that's a very relatable experience. Like I I I don't know how to word this. It just sounds like you're even saying something that I could relate to experiencing as a kid. Like just yeah. It's a very relatable what you've shared. Yeah.
And the irony was that I was actually doing really well in life. Like I had a really good job. I had great close friendships. Um I had a really good relationship with one of my parents and I got to speak to people. I did a lot of public speaking. And so from the outside it seemed like I really had my shit together. And then from the inside I was freaking out all the time and I felt like when I was doing things well, it was just like white knuckling. I was just holding on for dear life. I was Mufasa at the edge of the cliff, just holding on by my fingernails. And and so even though it seemed like I had everything together, that felt to me super fragile. Like it was always like one bad thing away from all falling down.
hmm, did you like get help or, you know, make any
Yeah.
attempts to like
Yeah. I had been in therapy since 14. I went into therapy. I knew I had a lot of mental health issues. I not to get super duper into it, but suicidal ideation was something I always dealt with. Self-harm was something that I dealt with for a long time. I had an eating disorder for a long time. And so I had been in therapy. I knew something was wrong. And I'd been in 12-step recovery. I had done a lot of self-help stuff. I read a lot of self-help books and a lot of it did help. By the way, I don't want to knock any of those things. They made a huge difference. Those are the reasons that I didn't die when I was like 15. Um, and it didn't do anything for this kind of pervasive sense that everything was just one thing away from going all badly, falling down.
Ooh, I totally get that. And it's just like wild to, I don't know about you, Elliot, but it's like wild to know Alex and like imagine him like that at 14, 15, or like there's just one thing away from it all
Yeah.
falling apart. Um,
Yeah. Like a completely different person.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Do you remember, Alex, like the first time that we met in person?
Yeah, yeah. We were in Atlanta and we went to this brunch gathering. I do remember that.
I know, so gay. I didn't even know you were gonna be there. I was like, I was almost mad. I was like, why did he not tell me? And
And
like
I
I
kept it
had
a secret too. I think we
I
had talked the day
know. I
before
was
on
like,
Zoom,
how did
and I was
everybody
like,
know this? I think my mom may have like told me, someone told me like when we were driving up, But anyway, yeah, this it was like this graduate get together. Um, and yeah, I met your mom there. I had, had known her, I think more than you. I just didn't put it together that the two of you, that was you or her son. But I don't think I ever told you this before. I had had a conversation with your mom while I was there, and I asked her why she told you to do the forum. Um, and she said, she just looked me dead in my eyes and she said, because I wanted to see my son alive.
oof,
My
And I
gosh.
oof.
almost like bust out into tears.
Hmm. That checks out. I was in a really dark place right before I did the forum. And again, my life looked really good from the outside. But I felt like I was 22 at the time, no, 23 at the time, and I had always anticipated I wasn't going to live past 18. Like for some reason or another, I was just like, I'm not going to live that long. And so then I was 5 years past that, and I felt like I'd outlived my expiration date. I felt like the milk that had been stuck in the back of the fridge, and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing with my life, and I felt like I was getting it all wrong. So yeah, and I was also super isolated. I just moved across the country and I didn't know anybody. And so I would just be in my apartment and I would get off of a Zoom call with my coworkers and it would just be this black screen staring back at me. And I would realize I was all alone in my apartment. And if I died in there, nobody would know.
Mm. Oh my God.
Where were you? Where was this in Portland?
Yeah, this was in Oregon,
Okay. How old were you at the time?
23.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So did you go to an introduction or did she just mention it to you?
I did not go to an introduction.
No.
Okay, so here's the thing. Just a little bit of background. My parents did the Landmark Forum 28 years ago, and I'm 27 now. They did the Landmark Forum 28 years ago. That's not a coincidence. They met through the Landmark Forum, and my mom created me as a possibility. And so she had told me about this before, but had never, over the course of that 24 years, been like, you should try this for yourself. And I was so mad at her afterwards. And I was like, you saw how miserable I was and you didn't say anything. Anyway, so at the time she was like, this is that thing I told you I did. It made a big difference for me. I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to make this better for you. And I don't know what to do, but I know this made a big difference for me and I want you to do it. And so she just registered me. She sent me the website and I registered.
That's awesome. I
Wow.
remember like I had a moment too where I was mad at her. It's like, why did you say but I think I actually asked. I was like, why did you wait till he was like 23? And she was like, I honestly like we had been living the distinctions and like doing a lot of the teachings and practices of landmark and stuff, but I hadn't thought about it, you know. We did all of the other routes that people usually talk about, therapy, all of these other things. But I didn't know how else to help him. And it was there and kind of a last resort type of thing. I was like, if this made a difference for you, maybe it'll make a difference for him. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
And it sure did. Thank goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
I don't want to derail the conversation, but it's actually um that was a little bit part of that was a little bit of why my aunt actually had me do the forum because the forum is what helped her to not take that path. She was in a really dark place and she was afraid that I was gonna go that path too. And like then we know. Maybe I don't know, just wow.
yeah. What ultimately had you say yes, Alex?
My mom told me to. I basically did what my mom told me to. It's very simple. A lot of the best and worst things in my life have been not the worst things. Well, most of the best things in my life happened because my mom was like, "You're gonna do this," and I was like, "Okay."
Oh man, I love our moms.
We need to do an episode on our moms. We should have them on here.
Yeah, we totally should. God. I don't think I really thought about how all of us have like pretty close relationships with them. Um, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
What was like, tell me a little bit more about the forum. What it was like for you in that state? Because I know like with me, I was in a completely different place. Like I was pretty good when I did the forum, but for you, like what was it like? What did you discover about yourself?
So just when I went in, I was pretty aloof. I was pretty resigned because I'd done so much. I was like, I've dedicated 17 years of my life to getting, getting better, doing all of this better. And so I probably know everything that they're going to be saying. And then in the first 30 minutes, we turn, we had a chance to ask ourselves if there was one thing that we got out of the weekend that would make it worth it for us to actually put our whole lives into the workshop, what would it be? And I was like, if this fear of everyone and everything could be lifted, that would be worth it because nothing else has worked. And sure enough, that did happen. So let me see. That did happen. Actually, that was one of the biggest things was there's this part that's called freedom from anxiety where long story short, I learned, found out, looked around and discovered that all of us are actually scared of one another as humans and that it's just kind of natural for human beings to be, I don't know if it's natural, but it's certainly the case most of the time that human beings are
Like
scared of one
normal.
another. Yeah, it's normal. It's
Yeah.
normal.
Oh
And
yeah.
these fears that I'd had that I thought were personal to me were actually universal. And that when I thought I was different from other people, that they thought they were different from me too, not because we're actually different, but because that was just what we were thinking. And also we talk about how fear is just fear. It's not an indicator of what's actually going on. And that was mind blowing to me. So that anxiety, that pervasive anxiety, that just kind of went away. It's not that it went away, but the control over it that it had over me went away. So
Hmm.
that was a huge thing. And then something else that opened up over this was actually on my first day that I had not expected at all was this story that I had held on to for my whole life that I was unlovable. So this was part of the sense of being weird, being an outcast, being I'm never going to connect with somebody else was this sense of being unlovable. And so we were in a part where we look at a story that we've been holding on to as like the truth about ourselves for our whole lives that's getting in the way, that's limiting us. And what came up for me in terms of what happened where that came about was when I was younger. I think I was 6. I overheard an argument that my parents were having, and then after this argument, my mom came and told me that um, my dad had had a family before us, and he had other kids, and I put that plus my parents are unhappy with each other. 2 plus 2 equals 4. I'm the reason that my parents are unhappy with each other. And I'm the reason that my parents are together. And also, my dad obviously doesn't want me because he already had a family. And if he wanted more, if he wanted a family, he wouldn't have had this. Oh, I was a happenstance. I was not on purpose. I was an accidental little baby. And so I was like, okay, my parents didn't want kids. My dad especially didn't want kids. My parents are together in this unhappy relationship and it's my fault. And I'm not wanted. I am I make bad things happen with other people and other people don't actually love me. This colored my whole life. And so I saw this and I was like, oh, maybe that's not actually the truth. Maybe it's just what I've thought is true about me and my life and my relationships.
Wow.
I know,
Oh
right?
my God. Like, damn.
Did you end up having a conversation with your parents about that moment, or did just like realizing it, that was enough?
I think realizing it was mind blowing. And then I needed to talk to my parents about it. Like, I needed to talk to my dad, especially about it, because I had, up until that point, we had had no relationship. And I, because I had this perception that we didn't want to have a relationship. And so I didn't either. And it was just kind of this cycle. And so I called him and I said all of this. And I said, this is the story that I've had about you. And I have used it as an excuse for us to not have a relationship, for me to not share my life with you. And I have a really good life. And I want to be able to share that with you. You're part of the reason I have that really good life. And I'm tired of us having this distance for no reason. And he was like, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of hard to hear. And I want you to know that just because I didn't want kids, which was the case, it never meant that I didn't want you. Because then you came along and you were pretty cool. And then we talked for like 40 minutes, which was, I think, the longest phone conversation we'd ever had before. And we started to, and at the end, I said, I love you. And we didn't really say I love you that much back and forth. And I basically spent the next 2 years, every time we talked on the phone at the end, I went, okay, I love you. And I think after a couple years, he said, "I love you too." And I was like, "Oh my God, call the presses." Um, it was so cool. We started to build a relationship. And there's something about building a relationship where there was nothing before that is so, I don't even know. It's so transformative in life, especially to build that with my parent.
But it sounds like it wasn't only that there wasn't nothing there. You like genuinely believe that he just didn't want you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
And
know,
so
the
that,
other thing that I don't think about that often is that all of a sudden I saw the things that he had been doing for my whole life that had actually been caring for me. My dad was the one who stayed home with me, and I was homeschooled, and so he took me to all kinds of crap. He took me to these workshops. He took me to summer camp. You know, he we would look at physics when we'd be out in the world and look at things, and he would explain things to me, and I started to see all of the ways that he'd been demonstrating his love for me that I could not see because I was so blinded by this story that he didn't care about me.
and like so was it like you felt like he was doing all of those things out of obligation before?
I didn't see them at all. I
Wow.
yeah, it was basically totally invisible to me. I didn't see that as an indication of care.
Hmm. Okay. Gotcha. So, I mean, like, it sounds like that fundamental thing was that you were unlovable.
Mhm.
And that story was that experience that you had, like overhearing your parents or having the conversation with your parents, is what kind of unraveled that story, or had you see, like, okay, me as a 6-year-old, like I made this up. Were there other places in your life where that kind of like ran the show?
Oh yeah. Yeah, romantic relationships was a big thing for me with that too, is that, you know, I was it was kind of like I was unwanted waiting to happen. I was walking around and everything that my partner did was in the camp of they care about me or they don't care. It's like they love me not. And most of it fell into they love me not. So I was dating somebody at the time and I called them and I shared this with them. And they were like, I'm glad that you saw that, you know, because you're cool. And I hate that you can't tell when people care about you and are demonstrating that they care about you. And so when they said I love you, it was like the first time I heard it.
Mm,
Like really heard it and believed it.
wow. And how is like, I mean, I imagine your relationships with people have changed since, not just with that relationship and your parents, but how is relating to people changed or transformed, I guess?
Um, I don't always have to be waiting for rejection. Like a lot of my defensiveness just kind of melted away because what is there to defend? And um I also had this sense of I needed to prove something. I needed to prove that I needed like a reason for me to exist. I needed to justify and so I was so busy trying to do the right thing that I wasn't actually connecting with people. So after seeing that and seeing that, oh, that was kind of a load of crap. I could just be with people, and it's like I experienced my friends differently. I started being able to have conversations with strangers and form new friends and experience what community actually feels like, which is being able to create a bond with someone just kind of from the fact that we share an experience. It might be an identity, it might be like being queer, it might be just we are humans that live in the same environment. And I started being able to build bridges and build connections without worrying about are they going to like me? Are they going to think I'm okay? Are they going to think I'm too weird?
Sounds like a much more empowering way to meet people and that type of thing.
Yeah. Which made a huge difference because I felt super alone at the time, right? Like that was a big reason I felt so bad before I did the forum as I felt alone. So I just started to create connections with the people around me so that I started to have community where I was.
So it's kind of like you broke that glass box you were talking about, or it, removed it or something.
Yeah, it disappeared. I realized that it was never there to begin with.
It's amazing how like something I think that is never there to begin with can just be so real for
Hmm.
us, like for such a long period of time.
Yeah. It's kind of like I'd been a mime the whole time, pretending I was in a box, and then realizing I've been a mime. It hasn't actually been there.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you've done with that, you know, freedom to relate to people
I've done
since
so
like,
many things.
yeah.
Dude, the last several years I've been so full of doing stuff with that. So for one thing, I have this crazy beautiful relationship with my dad now. And like I've been staying with my parents for the last few months before I move, and it's like at the end of the day, there's the time that I spend talking to my dad for 2 hours. That's like no matter what is going on, that's just kind of what ends up happening. And um, we do things together. We have projects together. We go on trips together, and we just have this bond that's like unlike anything else. And so that's one big old thing. It also made a huge difference with my transness because we had a lot of we didn't speak for a few years because of conflict about he didn't want to use my pronouns. And now, he introduces me to people as his son without even thinking about it. And I've been really impressed about the strides that he's taken himself to educate himself and to be someone who's open and respectful. And like I also started a nonprofit I started a nonprofit and then I helped out with another nonprofit to relocate trans people who were in crisis, especially in the South, to Oregon, which is a really safe state for trans people. And as I was doing that, he was so supportive of me and would like talk things out with me when I was dealing with problems about that and was like, that's really fucking cool that you're doing that. Um, yeah, and that whole nonprofit thing was brand new too because I was so focused on my own life before that that I didn't even think about being able to help other people like that. Um, but then I was just able to. That box disappeared. Um, So those were a couple things, and then I did, oh my God, a whole bunch of other things. I left my corporate job. I did a lot. I started becoming somebody who made a difference at that job, and then I was like, I'm good, I'm done. And I I started working as a communication coach, and then I was helping people in small businesses. And right now, I'm working with my mom's financial advisor team. We kind of get to be this team of people who want to make a difference in the world of finances and make it accessible for people. And I get to contribute to making a difference for people, caring about things that are bigger than myself. Um, yeah. I also that relationship I was in the forum, I'm no longer in that relationship and I was mad about it for a little while, but then I was able to actually like have a really honest conversation with my ex and bridge that gap and now we're really good friends. Next week we're going to go to an EDM show together. Like we're still really good friends.
Cool.
Yeah. Um
That's super cool.
yeah.
I I feel like one of the things that you said earlier is that from the outside, like your life seemed like it was going great regardless. So to like the people in your life, did they see a difference in you?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
What did they see? Or did they like comment? I don't know.
Um, I've especially asked my friends this and they've said that I've been way more present and had less it's not just less anxiety, but less insecurity and less sense of I have to be some particular way. And I've gotten to learn more about their lives and they've learned more about my life. They said that I share more openly and I'm just happier. And I started asking the people I care about if they're happy. And that's not something people ask one another very often. Are you happy? And
Mm.
coming
It's a
from a place of,
confronting question.
yeah, it really is. And um, so once I was like, damn, I'm actually happy with my life. That's wild. I never was before. I want to hear about other people's experiences. Um, Sometimes I saw shifts in the people I cared about from having those kinds of conversations just because they started looking at their life and going, what is it that I'm happy about or not happy about? And once you see that, once you ask yourself that, you can actually start to have shifts in those. So it's not like in order to make people happier, I was asking that. It's just kind of a natural result of that. But yeah, I just honestly just started being happy. I was like, I'm never going to kill myself. That's just not something that's going to happen. So now I got to figure out what I want to have fun doing for the rest of my life.
Fuck yeah.
Awesome. So what's next for you?
Dude.
I'm moving to Spain. Going to this nomadic period of my life. I want to travel the world. And connect with people from all over. That's what I want to do. I want to, deepen my relationship with my dad even more and with my mom and with all of my friends and make new friends and make community. And yeah, I just want to meet people from all over the world and have a great time and live my, and not to be cliche, but live my best life.
Hey, we love queer people living their best lives.
Right?
Yep. Cool. Make sure you add the girls' trip to the monastery to your list, by the way, because
Okay, I
we're now
will.
doing that.
Yeah. And y'all gotta come visit me in Spain.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I will definitely be there.
Yeah. It's I've never been out of the US, so that could be my first stop.
Sweet.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Hey y'all, this is Elliot. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for part 3 with Allison's interview. Or you can watch the full episode available now. See you next time.